Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast.
Today we are discussing chapter 238, Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate. And let me tell you, they get there, they see the sign, they meet the gatekeeper, and they immediately get put on a list. The chapter ends with this sweet old lady reporting 7 illegal immigrants to a literal god.
Not just a god and his priests. They've stumbled into an entire theocracy.
They haven't even set foot on dry land and they're already wanted criminals by the local deity. If you want to follow along as the Straw Hats rack up a celestial criminal record, make sure you're following the pod because this is the kind of trouble we live for.
They certainly have a talent for it. Let's start from the beginning.
Right, so they've just survived the knock-up stream. They're on the deck of the Going Merry, floating on a sea of clouds, and Nami is losing her mind. She's yelling at Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji, calling them the useless trio.
Which, in fairness, they were. Their combined recklessness is what almost got them all killed, and now they're just passed out on the deck.
It's perfect. Oda establishes their power so consistently, but he also establishes that without Nami's brain, that power is just a cannon with no one aiming it. She's the only reason they're alive, and she's making sure they know it. Look at them, the monster trio, the future pirate king and his 2 wings, completely laid out, drooling on the deck.
It's a necessary dynamic. Luffy is the force of will, the destination. Zoro and Sanji are the engines of that will. But Nami is the rudder and the compass. Without her, they just spin in circles, picking fights with sea kings until they sink. She has to be the adult in a room full of super-powered children.
You can feel her stress, man. She's not just angry, she's exhausted. She just navigated them through a vertical cyclone that defied all laws of physics, and her reward is to look at the 3 idiots who made it 10 times harder, just snoozing like it was a calm day in the East Blue. I'd be throwing things.
She seems close to it. Meanwhile, Chopper is having a much more civilized interaction with Gan Fall, thanking him for his help.
Yeah, Gan Fall is just like, it's my duty. Super calm, very knightly. He has this old world gravitas to him. He looks like Don Quixote's cooler, more successful older brother. And his bird, Pierre, is just standing there. The bird that we now know ate the horse fruit.
An avian that ate the Uma Nomi. It's a fascinating combination. A bird that can become a Pegasus. It feels mythological, which is appropriate for the setting.
It's so weird. I love it. It's not the bird fruit model Pegasus. No, that would be too simple. It's a bird that ate the horse fruit. What does that even mean? Does Pierre think he's a horse sometimes? Does he try to neigh? Oda just throws these wonderfully bizarre concepts at us and expects us to roll with it, and we do.
It raises interesting questions about the nature of Zoan fruits. We saw with Chopper that a reindeer who ate the human fruit gained human-level intelligence. Does that mean Pierre has the intelligence of a horse? Or does the fruit simply grant the physical properties? His transformation is seamless from bird to full-blown Pegasus. It's an elegant design, but the mechanics behind it are a delightful puzzle.
A puzzle I don't think we'll ever solve, and that's the beauty of it. But the real grounding moment is when Luffy tries to get up and just collapses. He says he can't move right. He's all rubbery and weak, which for a guy literally made of rubber is saying something.
And this is where the world building gets serious. I loved this detail. It's not just that they're in a strange place. The physics are different. I'm the one who actually points it out. The oxygen is scarce.
It's such a simple, elegant way to establish the danger. It's not a monster, it's not a villain, it's the air itself. It tells you that people from the Blue Sea are not meant to be here. They're aliens in this land. It's not just a new island on the Grand Line, it's a fundamentally different world. Remember Little Garden with its prehistoric dangers, or Drum Kingdom with its freezing cold? This is more primal. The very act of breathing is a challenge.
It adds an immediate and constant undercurrent of peril. Every action requires more effort. Every fight will be more draining. It's a brilliant way to level the playing field. No matter how strong you are, you can't punch the lack of oxygen into submission. It's an environmental handicap that affects everyone.
Gan Fall confirms as much. He asks if they're from the Blue Sea and says the average person couldn't even stand up here. It reframes their survival. They didn't just ride a crazy current, they entered an ecosystem that is fundamentally hostile to their biology. The fact that they're even conscious is a testament to their ridiculous monster stamina.
It's another one of those subtle compliments Oda pays them through the world itself. The Grand Line is a filter, the knock-up stream is a filter, and now the very atmosphere of the sky is a filter. Only the strongest, or perhaps the most foolish, can even exist here.
And then comes the business proposal. Gan Fall says this place, the White Sea, is dangerous, and he'll be their knight in shining armor for a price. 5 million per call.
It's a steep price. But what's more interesting is that he's offering a service. This implies that people get into trouble here often enough to warrant a subscription-based rescue night. It tells us two things. One, the sky is incredibly dangerous, and two, there's a void in official services.
It's Celestial AAA, or maybe more like a protection racket, but a polite one. Nice ship you got there. Be a shame if a sky shark ate it. For 5 million, I can make sure that doesn't happen. It's a little shady, but he's so darn charming about it.
The existence of his service is a clue. If there's a god ruling this land, as we later find out, why is there a market for a freelance vigilante? It suggests the official power structure is either indifferent to the safety of travelers, or perhaps is the source of the danger itself. Gan Fall is operating outside the system.
He even gives them a special whistle. It's such a video game mechanic. Use this item to summon your ally. It's an old school RPG, right? You get the key item that summons the powerful NPC to help you in a tough spot. But then he drops the real bomb. He says the knock-up stream wasn't the only way to get to the sky.
Nami's reaction is heartbreaking. She just starts weeping. The panel where she's on her hands and knees, tears streaming down her face, is both hilarious and profoundly tragic.
You feel it, though. She navigated them through a vertical hurricane, a maritime impossibility, risking all their lives on a 1 in a million shot, only to find out there was a staircase around the back the whole time. Imagine building a super complex machine from scratch, spending weeks on it. It nearly explodes 3 times, but you finally get it to work, and then someone points out you could have just bought one at the store. That's her pain right now.
It's a classic Grand Line lesson. The most direct path is often the most foolish. There are rules and systems to this world, but the Straw Hats, by their very nature, always find the exception. They stumble upon the ancient, forgotten, or legendary routes. They don't take the tourist ferry, they ride the monster.
That's exactly it, and Gan Fall even respects it. He asks if they lost anyone on the way up, and when they say no, he's genuinely impressed. He calls them brave. He gets it. They took the path of legends. He doesn't see them as idiots, he sees them as the real deal. They didn't find the easy way, they found the knock-up stream. They proved they were worthy of being here, even if it was by accident.
His respect is a form of currency in itself. It's an acknowledgement from a local that they belong in a spiritual sense, even if they arrived in the most chaotic way possible. It earns his respect, but it doesn't earn them a discount. He gives them the whistle and takes his leave.
On his flying horse bird. What an exit, just soaring off into the cloud-filled horizon. Leaves you with so many questions about who he is and what his deal is.
And it leaves the crew in a very precarious position. I actually point out at this moment that they have no information. They've arrived at the Sky Island from the stories, but they haven't actually found Skypiea. They are just in the sky, lost at sea, but 10,000 meters higher.
They're explorers again. It's not like Alabasta, where they had a clear destination and a goal. They had a map, they had Vivi. Here, they're completely lost, floating in a sea of clouds with no map. And the first thing they find is a waterfall.
A waterfall that flows upwards, leading to an even higher sea of clouds, a cloud river.
The white sea. It's layers. This whole world is built in layers. You've got the blue sea, then the white sea at 7,000 meters, and now the white sea at 10,000 meters. It's like a tiered cake of impossibility, and the entrance to this next layer is blocked by a giant wall of clouds.
A cloud bank, and in any normal story, the crew would try to sail around it or find a way through it. They would check the currents, Nami would study the wind, they would approach it like a problem to be solved logically.
But this is One Piece. This is Monkey D. Luffy, so what does he do? He stretches his arm out and pokes it.
Of course he does. It is his primary method of interacting with the unknown.
And it's bouncy. He says it's soft like cotton and starts jumping on it. The pure, unfiltered joy of that moment is everything. He's not thinking about the danger, he's not analyzing the phenomenon, he's not concerned with the barometric pressure or the composition of these so-called island clouds. He's just a kid who found the world's biggest trampoline, and it's made of clouds.
It's a perfect encapsulation of his character. While Nami is pondering the meteorological implications and Usopp is fearing what monsters might live inside it, Luffy is experiencing it with his entire body. It's how he understands the world. He doesn't theorize, he interacts. And more often than not, that simple, direct interaction reveals the truth of a situation far faster than any cautious observation could.
It's so good. It's that sense of wonder that makes this arc so special. It's a return to pure adventure. They are literally jumping on clouds. They're living a fairy tale. And it's from up there, bouncing around, that Luffy spots it.
The gate.
Heaven's Gate. A huge, ornate gate just sitting in the sky on the other side of this cloud wall. The scale of it is immense. This isn't some backwater village. This is the entrance to a kingdom. The architecture is detailed, elaborate. It implies a long history, a sophisticated culture. This place has been here for a long, long time.
And a kingdom needs a gatekeeper.
Yeah, this old lady just pops out of the gate post. Super chill, says she's the watcher of the gate. She has a kind smile, looks completely harmless. She's the celestial grandmother you'd expect to be greeting you at the pearly gates, offering you cookies. Then she asks them for an entrance fee.
1 billion extol per person. And right away, the crew is faced with a problem they haven't encountered before. They don't have extol. They've never even heard of it. The economy is different here.
That's a huge flag right there. They don't have the local currency. It's another way of establishing them as complete outsiders. In Alabasta, berries were still berries. Here, their treasure is worthless. But then the gatekeeper says something even weirder. She says paying is not compulsory.
The optional fee. That is, to me, the most suspicious thing in the entire chapter. Nothing in the Grand Line is ever that simple. An optional fee is never truly optional. It's a test.
Right? Because what's the point? It's a classic logic puzzle. Is it a test of character? Are you supposed to pay to show you're a good person who respects the local customs? Or is it a trap where paying marks you as a sucker, a tourist to be fleeced? Or is not paying the real trap? My head is spinning trying to figure out the right move.
I believe it's a filter designed to categorize newcomers. It's a test of compliance. By choosing not to pay, you are making a declaration. You are declaring yourself an outsider, someone who doesn't respect the local customs, even if that custom is presented as optional. You are choosing the path of the interloper over the path of the visitor.
And what's their thought process? It's perfect straw hat logic. Nami, our brilliant navigator and treasurer, is probably still traumatized from Gan Fall's 5 million a call offer. The last thing she wants to do is drop 1 billion of a currency she doesn't understand. She's thinking about the budget. Luffy just wants to get to the island he can see right behind the gate. He's not thinking about socio-economic implications. He's thinking adventure. So they just say, no thanks, we're good.
Their decision wasn't born of malice or disrespect. It was born from practicality and impatience. But in a highly rigid, rule-based society, intent often doesn't matter. The act itself is what is judged, and their act was one of non-compliance.
And instead of being turned away, a creature appears to guide them. This is the part that really sells it as a trap. If they'd said, oh, you can't pay, then you can't come in, that would be one thing. But no, they get a personal escort.
A giant, speedy shrimp attaches a pulley to the Going Merry and begins to pull them up the Cloud River. It's a taxi service.
It just latches onto the Merry and starts pulling them up the Cloud waterfall at high speed. It's their taxi into paradise. It feels way too easy. They just said no to the cover charge and got ushered into the VIP section with a free ride. That never happens without a catch.
That's because it is. The journey isn't the test. The question was the test. And they failed. The ride is simply the mechanism for delivering them to the consequences of that failure.
Exactly, because the second they're gone, we cut back to the gatekeeper. The friendly old gatekeeper pulls out a tone vial. The grandmotherly facade drops instantly, and she's not talking to her grandkids.
She's reporting to a god. Her tone is completely different. Formal, deferential, cold. She reports 7 illegal entrants who refused to pay the toll.
The language is so specific and so damning. They're not even called pirates. They're just interlopers, illegal immigrants. It's a bureaucratic, dehumanizing term. They've been flagged the second they came through the door. They thought they were being clever, saving money, but all they did was announce to the highest authority in the land that they don't follow the rules. They tripped a silent alarm they didn't even know was there.
And this authority is not a king or a president. It's a god with priests. This implies a level of absolute control we haven't really seen before. Crocodile was a warlord playing at being a hero, a master of political manipulation and organized crime. This person, whoever they are, is positioned as a divine being. The laws here aren't mortal laws, they're divine edicts. To break a rule is not just a crime, it's blasphemy.
Bro, you know Luffy's gonna have a problem with that. Anyone who puts themselves on a pedestal like that is just begging for a gum pistol to the face. The moment he hears someone calling themselves God and telling everyone what to do, it's on. They are on a collision course with whatever deity runs this place, and it happened in the space of about 5 minutes.
They chose the adventurer path instead of the tourist path, and in a place called Heaven's Gate, that's a dangerous choice. It implies there is a hell to be sent to.
Super. That's the Grand Line promise right there. You survive the impossible journey, and your reward is landing in an even more impossible situation on an island ruled by a god who already has a warrant out for your arrest. This is what they signed up for. This is what we're here for.
It seems so. Before we get to predictions, Oda's author comment this week was interesting.
Oh yeah, read it out.
He says, recently I've started enjoying texting, and whenever I've got a chance, I check for messages. I get lonely if there aren't any. My dear friends, please text me. Don't expect a reply, though.
That's amazing. That is the most relatable thing a manga genius has ever said. Even the master storyteller of our generation, a man who lives in a world of his own creation, gets lonely and just wants his friends to hit him up. But the don't expect a reply part is so perfect. It's like, fill my cup, but don't expect me to fill yours. I'm busy drawing pirates.
It's a very pure desire for connection without the obligation of response. He wants to know people are thinking of him, but he's too busy creating this world to get caught in a conversation. It's the plight of the creator. You pour so much of yourself into your work that you need reassurance that the outside world is still there, but you can't afford the time to fully engage with it. It's very human.
It really is. A true artist. Okay, let's get into predictions. But first, let us know what you thought of this chapter in the comments. Was refusing to pay the toll the right move or the dumbest thing they could have possibly done? We want to know your take.
And interesting question. I have my thoughts. Shall I go first with predictions?
Go for it.
My first prediction is that this god has some form of advanced observation haki, or a devil fruit that allows him to see and hear everything that happens on the island. Amazon reported to him, but I think he was already aware of them. The gate is just a formality, a ritual. His power is omniscience, or something close to it. The entire island is his domain, and he perceives all within it. The report was not to inform him, but to log the transgression officially.
Ooh, I like that. A surveillance state run by a single person. That's terrifying. It makes the whole island a prison, and you don't even know you're being watched. What's your second?
The concept of crime in Skypiea will be bizarre and arbitrary. We've already seen it with the optional fee. I predict they will continue to break laws they are not aware of. Things that are normal on the Blue Sea, like laughing too loudly or picking a certain kind of fruit or not saying a specific prayer before eating, will be considered grave sins, punishable by the priests. They are going to accumulate a list of charges for reasons they can't even comprehend, becoming top-tier criminals by just being themselves.
That feels dead on. It's the ultimate culture clash. It's not just that they're pirates, it's that their entire way of being is illegal here. Okay, my turn. My first prediction is that the crew is going to get separated almost immediately. That speedy shrimp is pulling them up to the main island, but the landing is not going to be smooth. The island is going to be a giant, dangerous jungle, and some weird creature or natural phenomenon will split them up, forcing them into smaller groups to explore and survive.
A classic setup. It allows for different discoveries to happen simultaneously. Nami, Usopp, and Sanji might discover the civilization, while Luffy, Zoro, and Chopper end up in the wild fighting strange beasts. It maximizes the narrative potential.
Exactly. And my second prediction, we're going to meet one of the priests next chapter. Not the god, not yet. We need a mini-boss first. We'll meet one of his top enforcers, and their fighting style is going to be based on something completely alien to the Straw Hats. I'm thinking it's not a typical devil fruit, but something unique to the sky, like manipulating the properties of clouds, or more likely, using those dials we've heard whispers about for combat. A priest will show up and do something that just breaks their understanding of how fights are supposed to work.
That seems very likely. A new environment should come with new forms of power. The dials, which can store and release energy like wind or sound, seem like a perfect foundation for a unique combat system. It would be a fascinating challenge for the crew.
We're about to see a whole new power system. I can feel it. And the Straw Hats are going to have to adapt or get knocked right back down to the blue sea. And that's all the time we have for today. Join us next time as we dive into Chapter 239.
Thank you for listening to Inherited Dawn.
Super!